Welcome back to Down the Lineup. Today I'm back with my co-host Sunny. How are we feeling today?
Welcome, or I guess I'm excited to be back after missing last week. So feels good
Yeah,
to be back.
some exciting stuff happened over the last week. Just real quick before we get into the action, um, something like I did like kind of talk about last week. I kind of want your opinion on it. Is the Ronald Acuna news? Superstar player out for the year with a torn ACL. And it kind of has something to do with the episode we have today. So I just want to get your quick thoughts on it before we dive in.
I mean, it's kind of a shame to be honest that this happened. It's not like this is the first time this is happening. It's kind of like all coming to fruition, like why he was performing so poorly this year. He was definitely having knee problems. It just sucks. Like it really sucks to see because you obviously, as a fan of baseball, you want to see the best players out there all the time. Um, and a guy as talented as him and guy who could put up historical numbers like him, it just sucks. It's really a shame.
Mhm. Yeah, dive right into the recap then. The A's, they lose 2 out of 3. They were my upset pick. They lost to the Rays. Texas, they swept Arizona. So Arizona, the upset pick didn't hit either. Both of us hit on our locks. I had the Dodgers winning 3 or 4 against the Rockies. You had the Yankees winning 2 or 3 versus the Angels. So, both our teams won the series and hit the lock. And then our series of the week, Twins winning 3 of 4 versus the Royals. Twins are getting on a little hotter streak. Any thoughts about any of the series we just talked about, regarding any of the teams?
No, I mean, it kind of just played out the way kind of expected to.
Mhm.
We're about almost halfway-ish through the year. Not really, kind of
Well,
like a
over a
third,
third, over a
over a
third.
third. Yeah. Um, just I'm just ready for more baseball.
Yeah. I mean, we're about to hit the dog days of summer where, it's that little period where right like before the All-Star break, you get a little hope for the All-Star break. And then
Yeah,
after it's like, but
making
then
that push for
like
playoffs.
once you hit that trade deadline, after the trade deadline, if your team didn't make any moves, it's kind of just like, hey, now let's gear up for the playoffs.
Yeah.
But we still got a month or two before that, and I'm excited for the baseball that's gonna happen over the next 4 months that lead up to playoffs. Who is your player of the week?
My player of the week is Juan Soto. Juan Soto, obviously, with that monster game against the Giants, where he clutched up with a home run in the first and the ninth inning. He's hitting 435 over the past week, 3 home runs, 9 ribbies, 23 still total bases, on base percentage of 500. So I mean, you
Mhm.
can't deny those numbers. I mean, that along with how Aaron Judge, in my opinion, was also a contender for player of the week. I mean, Aaron Judge, cannot be stopped in the month of May. So let's see how his June goes.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of took everything I was gonna say. I was also down to Judge and Soto. I mean,
Yeah,
the series against the Giants was the kind of like the one that like
yeah,
left me thinking, okay, I'm gonna pick Yankee for the player of the week.
yeah,
So I mean, the first 2 days, Judge had 3 homers. Coming back home, it's like, man, Judge after the Monster May, like you said, is going to June firing.
yeah.
But then last night with Soto and his heroics late in the ninth, I gave it to Soto ultimately. You mentioned his stats, but Judge was a contender. He batted 364 with 4 homers, 8 RBIs, 6 runs, 2 stolen bases, which showing off the speed a little bit,
Yeah.
and 20 stolen bases. 481 OBP. So yeah, he had a great week as well. Just I think Soto's like last day, culminating in like the entire week, kind of gave him the nod over Judge. But going into like the rest of the year, this MVP race is gonna be very interesting. Not just with Soto and Judge, but like with Gunnar, with Tucker. You can throw Jose Ramirez is always in the mix. I think this AL MVP race is gonna be really, really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, there's no Shohei to dominate it this time, to be
Mhm.
honest. So it opens up a lot of doors. I mean, I know the players don't care about personal like achievements like that. I mean, they just want a chip. So it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if you don't win a World Series.
But I mean, the race is gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely,
whether or
thousand
not
percent.
like someone like I don't think this is a year where someone like kind of runs away with it like last year, like Shohei
No,
did.
yeah, definitely not.
And like especially with guys all in different situations, it's gonna be
And
really fun to watch. Just
and
like
you,
the debates.
yeah. Yeah, you could debate the same for the NL too. Shohei isn't running away with it necessarily. He's only a hitter. And the impact that Mookie is having right now, you could
Mhm.
debate. I mean that's also up in the air. So
Yeah. Moving on to the team of the week. Who did you have for your team of the week?
I had the New York Yankees sitting atop the MLB right now with 42 wins and 19 losses. 18 and 8 at home, but what's more impressive is that they are 24 and 11 away. They win a lot of games at opposing ballparks. They do not care. They don't need the porch in right field. Um, they are a solid team. They're
Mhm.
looking very scary. It's going to be awesome to see the Yankees versus the Dodgers coming up in the next couple weeks
Mhm.
or so. Or is it next this week?
It's this weekend,
Yeah,
yeah.
this weekend. Yeah, so that'll be truly exciting.
Mhm. Um, yeah, I mean, the Yankees top of they're top of the MLB right now. They're still, only got 3 game lead over the
Yeah,
Orioles, which shows how good the Orioles have been.
yeah,
And then yeah, like you mentioned, their road record. They do have the least amount of road games remaining.
yeah.
They have the most percentage of home games remaining, so that's gonna be interesting to see, especially like going into like these middle months where players kind of either go on a little hot stretch, slump a little bit. It's kind of very, especially when like the games aren't as impactful,
Yeah.
and teams start to kind of fall out. Um, yeah, and that also shows like when teams kind of distinguish themselves. And if the Yankees can distinguish themselves, heading into October, this could be a scary team.
Yeah.
My team of the week is a division leader, surprisingly, this late into the season. I got the Seattle Mariners. Um, they had 7 games this week. They won 6 of them. They went 3 of 4 versus the Astros, and then they swept the Angels pretty convincingly. Um, and they did fire their offensive coordinator. I forget his name off the top of my head. Before the Angel series, and then the offense seemed to just take off against the Angels. So I'm really interested to see,
Brant Brown.
Brant Brown, yeah. And I mean, whether or not like it was just something like in their heads, something like going on internally with how he was teaching them to hit or whatever. It's just surprising that like they flipped the switch like right away with the Angels series. And it is the Angels. They're not like a Cy Young level pitching, team like the Mariners are. But the fact that they're, clicking a little bit, it's like this team, if they can get their offense going a little bit, if they can be an average offense, their pitching can, kind of carry them late into the playoffs, and pitching wins, postseason games.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of hit everything. To kind of add on to it, the Mariners struck out only 18 times
Mm.
throughout the 3 game series against the Angels, which is right after the firing. Um, at one point they were putting up a run an inning, and their starting pitching gave up not a single earned run throughout the series.
Mhm.
When you look at the Mariners hitting, it, it's kind of evidence to show how much like overthinking in baseball really affects a team. You got a guy who comes in as an offensive coordinator slash mental coach. You got these guys overthinking their plan, right? It's not just expect fastball, react off speed, right? Now
Mhm.
he's probably asking him to like look for specific locations of a pitch, because of the numbers show it, or like, something just like ridiculously like advanced like that. That
Mhm.
doesn't need to be advanced like that. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Sometimes in baseball, you just have to, I guess, see ball, hit ball. I mean, sometimes you just have to go through the mechanical feelings. It's not always a mental game, even though we always talk about how it is a mental game, but you also need to hit the ball. So, I
Mhm.
mean, that's a big thing.
Yeah, just one last thing on the Mariners. I think this is a month where, like I said earlier, when the Yankees distinguish themselves, this is where the Mariners can kind of run away with the division. They
Yeah.
have some easier matchups coming up, and the A's. They got the White Sox coming up on a 4 game series. They got the Marlins later this month. You can throw in the Rays in there. I mean, there's some winnable series, and if the Mariners take care of business, such as they did with the Angels. This 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 could be a larger gap, especially with the Rangers and the Astros kind of scuffling a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, they got to take Texas. They have to build that gap is the
Hmm.
biggest thing. Hopefully from now on, their offense only goes up. I mean, they're playing Oakland in this next series. That should be, it should be pretty solid towards our end.
Hmm.
I'd like to see the hitting progress, not regress.
Hmm.
I always tell it to like my kids I coach, always progress, don't regress. You
Hmm.
know, let's build off of it. You know, don't forget what you've done and just kind of trash it. Doesn't make any sense.
Hmm. Yeah, that's exactly what the mentality should be. And then let's go to the next week preview. I want to start off with our upset series of the week. Who do you got for your upset?
I have the Orioles upsetting the Phillies. It's not really
Okay.
an upset, to be honest, but you can, if you look at their records, it technically is. I mean, you know, it'll be a good test for the Phillies to see how they match up against a really freaking solid AL team in the Orioles, who are 3 games back of the Yankees and who are, well, definitely way younger than the Yankees, and they're still
Hmm.
competing at that level. It'll be a good test for the Phillies for sure.
Yeah. Um, for my upset series of the week, I got the same team being upset. I got the Phillies. But I got the Brewers upsetting the Phillies. I just think the Phillies. This is more on the Phillies. They're struggling a little bit. They got such a blazing start, but now they're a little more injured. Trey Turner's still out. JT's been banged up a little bit. You got Brandon Marsh who went down yesterday with a hamstring issue. So, guys are kind of, like nicks and bruises. Guys are kind of like dropping a little bit. I just think, a kind of like regression to the mean. The Phillies are a great team. And I expect them to be, at the top, near the top of the NL come the end of the year. But I think, getting off to a hot start, there's always a period where, you go through a stretch where it's like, okay, this team maybe goes 500 over an X period of time. I think this is that time, coming off a series against the Cardinals, now going into like a tough week. I think this is the week where you see maybe, a 500 week. And I think that could result in a series loss to the Brewers. Um, and then my lock of the week, I'll get into it, is the Red Sox over the White Sox. This is just picking on the White Sox. I mean, the White Sox are on like a 10 game, 11 game losing streak at this point. So there's no reason to expect them to just turn it around and win a series against the Red Sox, especially a Red Sox team that's got great pitching and, has pretty decent, can hit at times. Um, yeah, it's just picking on the White Sox, and I think that's what like a lot of it's going to be towards like later part of the year.
It's actually funny because for my lock of the week, I also am picking on the White Sox. I got the Cubs beating the White Sox. I mean, there's just no way the White Sox are beating Chicago.
Mhm.
Chicago isn't playing up to the standards, in my opinion, that they should be. Their their depth is questionable, which I'll get into in the bulk of the episode, which I
Mhm.
have a point on.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, there's just no way they're beating the Cubs.
Okay, and then the series of the week. Who did you have for your series of the week?
For my series of the week, I have the Brewers and the Phillies. I think
Okay.
that game is going to be more entertaining than the Orioles and Phillies.
Hmm.
I think the Brewers have something to prove, and the Phillies still also have something to prove with their injuries. Both teams with something to prove right now.
Hmm. I have the series, like the series that's been like marketed everywhere. The series has been on every
Yeah,
channel,
I didn't want
every
to pick it because I didn't
yeah.
want to like just pick the
Yeah.
standard one.
I mean, the Orioles Phillies is another series I thought about, but I
Yeah,
mean,
definitely.
when there's a series where there's no games on local TV, it's like all three games are nationally
Yeah,
televised. I think the expectation around that is just enough to let it be the
yeah,
series of the week for me.
exactly.
Um, we're talking about the Yankees Dodgers series over the weekend. It's a 3 game series in the Bronx. And it's between our teams, and both of our teams are having great seasons this year. My Yankees are top of the MLB. Dodgers have a healthy lead over the rest of the NL West. Before we get into the news and the bulk of the episode, what are your thoughts about going to that series? What are you expecting out of this series? And what are your what's a disappointing result for you in this series?
A disappointing result would be a sweep on either side, in my opinion.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
it wouldn't do the series justice to like have one team just get absolutely destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
Expect a lot of back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Expect a lot of home runs. I don't know about chirping necessarily. I don't know about heated. It definitely will be heated. because the
Mhm.
atmosphere will like create a hostile environment for sure. I mean, Yankees fans live for the Dodgers Yankees. And so do Dodgers fans. They live for that Yankees Dodgers matchup. It's just
Mhm.
the marquee matchup of baseball. Now here we are in 2024 after waiting however freaking many years for this to happen again. Is this going to be awesome? A lot of offense for sure. Pitching is going to absolutely get destroyed on both sides, in my opinion. This series,
Mhm.
it'll be awesome. I can't
Yeah,
wait.
I agree. I think if either team gets swept, I think it's just disappointing, like a disappointing result.
Yeah,
I think um I actually think it's been more of a pitching series. As much as the
you
Yankees
think
have
so?
power, I think in like years past, it's been more of a pitching. Like I don't think there's really been that much of like a an offensive explosion.
Mhm.
Um, I think there might be one game where you get like a pretty high score, like a 7-6 game, 8-5 game, something like that, where you get some offense. But I do think the pitching will kind of take over in parts of the series. The Yankees lead the league in ERA, and then the Dodgers are right up there. They got some great arms. I think Yamamoto's pitching the Sunday night baseball game.
Should be.
Um, and I think is Glasnow going for one of the games?
Not sure. Glasnow's pitching tomorrow,
Okay, so
so
Glasnow's
it
not going
doesn't
to be in the
look like it.
series.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, there's some pitching in the series. I think in terms of like expectation on the series, I do expect like these teams to be really like juiced up a little bit.
Mhm.
I think we see a lot of emotion. Like you said, like maybe not chirping, but like I'd love to see some emotion. We've seen Otani bat flip on the Yankees.
Yeah.
Mookie's a guy who's crushed the Yankees in the past. Freddie's not that much of like a emotion shower. Will Smith either, but I do expect some fire out of them. And then on the Yankee side, Verdugo, Soto, both guys who are fiery guys.
Yeah.
Volpe and Judge, they've been guys who normally tame, but in the big moments they show up. I just think it's gonna be a great series for baseball, for fans, and just for everyone. And it's gonna be a test for both these teams. The premier team on the other side, the I'm assuming the favorites to make the World Series on both sides.
I'm assuming at this point of baseball right now, would you say we're sending the NL's best and the AL's best in this
At this
series?
moment, yes, I think on on paper these are the two best teams in the MLB. Um, the Phillies have played a little bit better, I'd say. The Dodgers have, been a little they've been more rockier. They've been like more ups and downs. I said
Yeah.
if you were to say like who's the best team in the if like the season ended today, who the best team in the NL would be, I'd probably say the Phillies played the best this year. But on paper and
To
like
be
the
fair, the Dodgers
forecast.
and the Phillies haven't played yet.
Right.
So, I
And I
mean,
think forecasting, if you were to say like, hey, in up to this moment, if you were to predict the World Series, I think the Dodgers and Yankees are both like the favorites
yeah,
to like,
for sure.
yeah. And then some quick news before we get into like the main part of the episode. The Blue Jays released their City Connect jerseys. I don't know if you've seen them.
Yeah, I did. The
How do
black
you
ones.
feel? How do you feel about them?
Those are actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I thought they were clean. No? You didn't like them?
I mean, okay. I like that they actually incorporate this like the city. You can see the city part of it.
Exactly.
They're called the City Connect. There's some
I
ones
like
where
the
it's like
colors, low key. Like the
I like
little red and like the dark like blue.
I will say I don't think those play in early games, which I don't think they're gonna wear them either in early games. But I think
Uh-huh.
if in a morning game, I don't think those play. Like those have to be a
Yeah.
night game type of vibe.
Just close the roof for it.
Yeah, I mean that's what you could do. Because like I mean, there's some like there's some jerseys where it's like okay, you can like wear these in the morning, like
Yeah.
the Padres specifically, like those are like built for the morning. If
Yeah.
you were like those are like the
Yeah.
Sunday like alternates. But I personally like them. I like the city, like you can see the city skyline in the
Yeah.
back. It's
Exactly.
pretty simple. It's not like overly complicated.
Yeah.
There's some ones where, and then like you can tell the references. There's some ones where it's like, they put like a little dash. It's like this dash
Yeah.
represents like the 19 like 50s and like the connection to the like it's a connection to the past or something like that. It's like, well, if I'm buying a jersey, like I got not like this isn't something where it like affects me. But if you're in Toronto in Canada and like
Yeah.
you're buying this jersey, you can say like, oh, this is like representing the city. It has Toronto on it,
Uh-huh.
you know, it has the city on it, and it's it's representative of the city, is what I'd say about it.
Not a big fan of the hats. I'm not sure how I feel
Mm,
about the tee. You know,
okay.
that might be
Yeah.
controversial because people like the maple leaf or whatever, but not a big fan of the tee.
Okay. That's interesting.
Kind of just like it just looks like anyone could have made that. It's not very
Yeah.
unique, you know.
Hmm.
Like I feel like they could have done a little more design with the tee. The jersey, I like it. It's great. I mean, they could add more though, low
Hmm.
key. Like I'm a big fan of like the color scheme for sure and the design, but there
Hmm.
definitely could have been more, if that makes sense. When
Yeah.
you look at the jersey, you kind of just see like that line of skyline and then like the Toronto over and then the number. And then the rest of it is just kind of like blue.
Yeah, I don't think it's the best jersey, but I don't think they ruined it.
No, definitely not the worst jersey, for sure.
There's some
Definitely
ones
up there.
where I got some thoughts, but
Yeah.
we'll get into that some other time. The second bit of news, the Negro League stats have been
Mhm.
incorporated into the MLB
Yep.
history books. This is a pretty two-sided debate here. There's
Mm.
some people who really like it. There's some people who really dislike it. Where do you fall on that?
I mean, like, I don't see why it's a big deal, to be honest. Like, we're honoring great players, you know,
Mm-hmm.
who were great at baseball. It's that simple. I
Hmm.
mean, this literally for me has nothing to do with race. If you're good, if you can ball, bro, you can ball, and
Yeah,
you deserve to be recognized. Like it's just that simple.
I'll give my little 2 cents on it. I didn't think, I mean, race had nothing to do with my thoughts to begin with. When I first heard it, I was like, this is kind of like the Japan like thing where it's like
Yeah.
they say it's like obviously Japan like you have like we have like numbers to like equate it, but like in terms of like history, they say they got similar players, it's similar like competition as the MLB. And I was thinking like, well then like this opens up a whole new can of worms about like, hey, you know, well what about like Ichiro stats in Japan or like, minor league stats, right? If we're allowing like
Mm,
this to get in, like what's the extent to like which MLB like record books will open up? But
mm,
then Sunha, my roommate, said something that really like intrigued me. And he said like in like the 1920s, where like when Babe Ruth was playing, right? The game was so much different. And like they was playing like they was playing with plumbers and like firemen out there.
yeah.
Like the competition wasn't like great. So if we still like
It's
accept
the virus.
those stats, like I mean, Babe Ruth was hitting 60 homers when like guys probably couldn't even throw like they probably threw 70 max, you know? Guys were getting high and throwing no hitters. Like the amount of baseball stories that happened in like the
Yeah.
1920s and like those stats still count. I mean, like you got guys who you've never heard of, guys
Mm,
who played like 2 seasons in MLB having like wins records. And I think if those stats are incorporated in the MLB record book, I think there's no reason why the Negro League stats shouldn't be incorporated, especially like you said with like such great players. Josh Gibson's the guy who kind of like caused the debate. And I think, the guy who leads like Babe Ruth, I mean, the guy played almost 100 years ago. Like and his stats are like incorporated. So there's no reason why, Josh Gibson shouldn't be recognized as one of the MLB greats in terms of stats.
yeah. I mean, that's actually a good point that you brought up. I mean, like we'll never not really know like what the competition of play like he
Mhm.
really did play. You know, we'll never get to
Mhm.
see it with our own eyes, which isn't a mark at him. I mean, he's probably. I mean,
No, I
it
mean,
was probably great. It was probably still like solid competition. We'll just never know. You know,
right.
that's just the only thing.
But I
But
think it doesn't matter.
yeah. I mean, if you can ball out, I mean, these were obviously grown adults who were playing baseball still
Mhm.
at a decently high level, obviously, you know. They
Mhm.
were obviously getting recognized by Major League Baseball at the time. You know, just like evidence alone, you can infer that he was a damn solid hitter who deserves to be recognized for sure.
Yeah. On that note, we can get to the bulk of the episode. So this is a little trade mailbag in terms of like some guys where we're seeing teams start to bottom out and we're seeing guys start to like blossom a little bit and then we're seeing some weaknesses show in teams that are gonna contend. So the topic is players you want to see traded and then on the side of that like who's like a team you want to see go after him or like you see a good fit for that player.
Yeah.
Um, do you wanna go
Sure,
first? Your first
sure.
player?
I'll kick it off. I'll kick off with a good one. I got Paul Goldschmidt.
Okay.
Paul Goldschmidt needs to leave the Cardinals. And the
Mhm,
Cardinals need to rethink their strategy right now. The old heads aren't working. Okay. They're a step away from the old folks home. Like the
mhm,
team, they need their young guys. They need to rebuild their system. And they probably
mhm,
have an okay system. I'm not really sure what the status of their system is right now on rankings.
mhm.
Um, but they need to focus on their youth. And I think Paul Goldschmidt would be a good fit for the Chicago Cubs.
Ooh,
Um,
okay.
Chicago Cubs right now they're playing Cody Bellinger kind of at first and kind of at center. They don't
Mhm,
really have a set first baseman right now because Cody can play both positions. It'd
mhm,
be really nice if they could get a guy with a ton of experience who has a debatably Hall of Fame career.
mhm,
Um, at first, keep Bellinger at center, build some depth within your lineup, you know,
mhm.
and bring some, veteran leadership as well. Maybe he'll thrive in a new environment. This isn't the Paul Goldschmidt we're used to. He's always, if when you think of him, I think he's most comparable to Freddie Freeman, a guy
Mhm,
who will always get a hit for you no matter what, and who is a solid defender. Not great, but solid.
mhm,
The Cubs need him, in my opinion. The Cubs could use the bat as well. Their hitting isn't necessarily the greatest right now.
mhm,
And if Goldschmidt could heat up for the Cubs, I mean, that would be a match made in heaven for Chicago, in
mhm,
my opinion.
mhm. I think Goldschmidt's a guy where, I do see him try to like get out of St. Louis or like not get out. Like I want him to have a fresh start a little bit
Mhm,
and be like transition to a veteran guy.
mhm,
Um, Cubs are interesting. I didn't really think of a team for Goldschmidt. He's not one of the guys I have on my list, but I
mhm.
think I think the Cubs do fit pretty well with him. They don't have a first baseman. They have a rookie first
Yeah.
baseman, Michael Bush. Um, I'll have to look him. I don't know how many games Cody's played at first base this year,
Mhm.
but I think he fits better as a center fielder. With his speed, his
I mean,
range, his
he's got
arm.
legs. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It's kind of just a waste to like stick him at first at the most immobile position.
Right.
I mean, he could give the outfield a boost. The outfield isn't necessarily the greatest defending outfield in the world,
Mhm.
and Cody Bellinger's a Gold Glover. Like it's really just not a question, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Pick up a guy like Goldschmidt.
I like that. That's something like I'd be pretty happy to see if that happens. My
Yeah,
first guy is Luis Robert. Um, I have him going
ooh,
like I'd like to see him
Luis
go to the
Robert,
I
definitely.
I like to see him go to the Braves. Um,
The Braves. Ooh, that's interesting. I have someone going to the Braves, but it's not Luis Robert.
okay. We mentioned that Acuna's out for the year.
Mm.
I think, on the White Sox, he's their primary center fielder. I
Mm.
think I think he'd
Oh, what the
fit
hell happened to
well.
my camera?
I think he'd fit well transitioning to a right field.
Uh-huh.
I know the Braves don't really have a lot to give up, and their team has come out and said that they don't want to spend in the trade deadline too much. But I mean, I just think this is like a perfect fit. Ac- Um, Losing Acuna, bringing in Robert, and then whether you want to extend him, whether you want to just like let him go at some point, just a little 1 year trial just to see, especially with Acuna possibly taking 2 years to kind of like retrust his knee. It took him, we had the 2021 was when he tore his ACL the first time. And then 2022, it took him a little feeling out period. And then 2023, we see him come back. I think Robert is like a guy who can really kind of like mold the two timelines together. He's still pretty young, relatively young, and then you have options what to do with it when it comes down. Adam Duvall's getting older. You move on from him. You get younger players like Kelnick and Robert to fill out the outfield with Michael Harris. I want to see Robert to the Braves to see what happens there.
I mean, that would just be another massive power bat also
Hmm.
to the Braves lineup, which the Braves, I mean, obviously have no shortage of power, let's say.
Yeah.
For mine, I guess I'll add on to the Braves. I got Brent Rooker.
Okay.
And so I have Brent Rooker actually either going to Seattle or
Hmm.
to the Braves. I'll
Okay.
start off with Seattle. The only reason why I added the Braves is because with the way Seattle's playing right now, it's actually kind of questionable if they need outfielders or not.
Hmm.
Low-key, Luke Rayleigh's been playing some awesome defense, and he's
Hmm.
kind of carrying the team right now. Dominic Canzone is playing some awesome defense, and he's hitting pretty okay. It could be better. And Julio's picking it up, and he has, well, awesome defense. I mean, our outfield is actually pretty good. I'm
Hmm.
not gonna lie. I feel like they don't give them enough credit. Like that Rob Luke Rayleigh had the other day. He's actually pretty fast. One of my instructors that I work with, he says that he's like the ugliest runner he's ever seen in his life,
Yeah.
which is definitely true. It looks so unnatural for a guy like his size to run that fast.
Hmm.
We have good defense in the outfield, and so I think he would honestly be a better fit for the Braves.
Mm.
I mean, he'd help the Mariners more in the batting side,
Hmm.
but the Braves, I guess, technically need him more. With Acuna out right now,
Yeah.
the Braves are kind of falling behind the Phillies, especially with
Hmm.
a team with that much talent. A
Yeah.
lot of their guys haven't really picked it up yet. They're just kind of mulling around right now. Um, like you said, it would give Acuna a break, let his knee really heal properly.
Mm.
Um, Michael Harris isn't hitting the best. Adam Duvall is old, and Jared Kelenic. I mean, so he's okay.
Yeah. He
You know, so
he's got untapped potential. That's what like it's been like
yeah,
3 years where Kelnick's had like
yeah.
the potential, but it's like, can he like put it together? It's been like
Yeah, he
spurts.
definitely has the potential. We've seen him, like at the beginning of that 2023 year,
Hmm.
he was hitting like 300 or something for the Mariners. Like he has the potential. It's about consistency. It's
Yeah.
about staying within yourself, keeping consistent, doing the same thing day in and day out, which is obviously the hardest thing of being a pro.
Hmm.
Um, so I think Brent Rooker would be a good fit for the Braves.
Hmm. Brent Rooker's like another guy. I don't have any A's on the list just because like I was looking at their roster and like how I don't know how much they're willing to like give up their youth guys. Like I was mentioning Mason Miller. I've seen a lot of guys like a lot of like fan bases like, hey, go out and get Mason Miller, go out and get Mason Miller.
Yeah.
And I just don't know. I mean, I feel like they're both so young. Rooker was a rookie last year. Mason
Mhm.
Miller is this is his second year, but like his first full year. And I don't know if the A's are going to just give that up, you know?
I mean,
So
he's
I
definitely young, like, and with
Mhm.
the A's, like, prospects, I mean, the situation they're in right now, it's kind of debatable to say like whether or not he's going to be around to where, like
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But I
the
think
A's are good and he's still in a peak form. I
I
mean,
just don't
it'd
know
be
if this year's
better.
I don't know if this year's the year where they give it up right now though. I see like I mean it's possible if like down
I
the
would,
line,
I
maybe in the offseason or
would.
next trade deadline, you look at back and be like, okay, this team isn't gonna be good enough for when like timelines match up. But I just feel like this year you I don't know if like you give them up this early.
If
It's
I'm
my
the
thought.
A's, I'm giving him up by the offseason.
Okay.
His value is ridiculously high right now. Who
Yeah.
knows where he'll be, in a second year, full year of closing.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? How
Yeah.
much people will be used to him. You got to get that value out when you can for the A's, especially for the A's, because
Yeah.
they need as much help as they can to rebuild their system after all the like shit they've been through.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm. Yeah. I see that. I mean, it's possible. I'll get to my next guy. Garrett Crochet, also on the White Sox. I guess we're picking on the White Sox a lot this episode, but I got him as a potential guy. And I see him going to the Rangers. The Rangers pitching has not been, they lost a couple of guys. DeGrom and Scherzer haven't pitched this year. DeGrom's not going to pitch this year. And I think if the Rangers want to make a push, they're gonna have to go get some starting pitching at some point. I think Garrett Crochet's an arm that you can go out and look for. You know, he's a power lefty, and you know, yeah, I just see a fit. Like I don't know how to say. Like it's just like it fits both sides' needs. Crochet, he's on the White Sox. He doesn't get a lot of run support. The Rangers have better offense, and they need some
which
pitching.
yeah, and their offense needs to pick that up low key,
They do,
but
yeah, but they
that's
have
a
the
conversation for
talent.
another day. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I guess I'll move on.
Yeah. Go
Um, I,
ahead.
I got Alex Wood. Um,
Ooh, okay.
that's not a name you hear every day, to be honest. Thought it was like 2017 again.
Yeah.
And I got him going to the Padres.
Okay.
Um, Look at the Padres rotation right now. I believe they don't have a single lefty, right?
Mhm.
You could say the same for the Mariners, but the Mariners are Cy Young level pitching, so you don't really have to worry about it. I guess all five for fucking righties work, I guess.
Yeah.
But the Padres kind of need it.
Hmm.
The run support is meh. Their pitching is meh, you know? A solid lefty like Alex would boost, maybe their offensive confidence a little bit and their rotations confidence a little bit. You could slide over one of your starters, over to the bullpen, you know,
Hmm.
create or you could create a more depthful rotation, so as to avoid injury for older guys like Darvish, and
Hmm.
you don't have to let C's run out too much, Is C's injured?
I don't think Cease. I know Darvish is injured. I'll take a look real
C's
quick.
injured.
Continue on your point. I'll take a
No,
look.
C's isn't injured right now. I mean, it would minimize the injury, add more depth, maybe give a
Hmm.
little more confidence, Cease, Darvish, and Wood be a nasty combo. And then you got what, like Matt Waldron to
Hmm.
add on to it. I mean, which is like, I don't know. Do you think he's like a solid pitcher? Like, do you think he's like effective?
Alex Wood.
No, Matt Waldron.
I think pitching wise, like I think depends what you ask of him. I mean, I have this thought process. It's like if you expect a pitcher to give you 5 innings under 3 runs, I think any pitcher works for that. You just have to get them on the right mindset. But if you
Yeah,
want a guy to become like an ace, then you got guys who can't do that.
yeah.
And there's a lot of guys in the league where I think they aren't ace material that are seen as aces. But that's another topic for another day. But if you're expecting Waldron to just be serviceable, I think he can. I think he can like work, especially if you're not going to use him like as a top arm in the playoffs.
I mean, you could leave him in the bullpen, have a knuckleballer in the bullpen,
That's
I
true.
mean, that's
Yeah.
that's like something that way they don't get used to it, You get him one good
Hmm.
inning out of him, like that would be a good option for the Padres. Alex
Yeah.
Wood is a more definite starter for sure. He's got that wild motion. He's got pretty effective stuff still. He's getting old, but
Hmm.
his Dodgers days are long over.
Yeah. I guess if we're sticking pitching, another lefty that I have is Jesus Luzardo from the Marlins.
That's definitely a good one. I was definitely thinking
Um,
about that one.
and this is a guy who thought, I mean, I initially had him going to the Rangers, but then I was like, I think Crochet fits a little bit better with the Rangers.
Yeah.
I got Luzardo going to the Guardians. I just think,
They definitely need him.
yeah, the Padres are another team that like I thought about. Um, I just think, the Guardians, they're in a position right now where they they could use like pitching a little bit more. I
Yeah.
think with the Padres, it's like you have your core guys, your core Cease, Darvish, Musgrove. I think with the Guardians though, you don't have that. Shane Bieber's out for the year, so you don't have your ace anymore. Um, and when you're looking to a playoff series, your outlook isn't that great with the pitching. Specifically, like McKenzie's gonna have to start a game, which is fine. He's a fine pitcher. Tanner Beebe, Logan Allen, maybe Carlos Carrasco's, being one of the guys. And it's like, I don't know
But
if you
guys, the
trust
old
that.
head it's the
I
old heads
know.
rotation, dude. I didn't
And
even
I'm
think
like,
about that.
I don't know if you trust that going to the playoffs, especially since they're this good right now.
Well, I
So
mean, you could debate that with the amount of experience they have, they literally like won't have any yips. The rotation will.
yeah, that's true. But I think,
And
I
they've all
mean,
played in the playoffs.
yeah. Um, but I mean, like you said, you want a lefty in there. And
Yeah,
I
definitely.
mean, Logan Allen's a lefty, but I think Luzardo gives a little more upside. Um, we'll see on that one. That one, like Luzardo, I had potentially going to the Padres, but I like him to the Guardians a
Mhm.
little bit more.
Yeah. I think Alex Wood's little bit of a better fit for the Padres, low key.
Probably, yeah. I think he's cheaper,
Yeah, absolutely. And the Padres don't want to spend too much right now.
right? Especially because they trade for a rise.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so I got Pete Alonso going to the Giants
Okay.
for my next one. The Giants don't really have a definite for like their first baseman right now is injured technically. So they have like what's his name? before Wilmer Flores, right?
Yeah, Wilmer
We
Flores.
got Wilmer Flores at first right now. I mean, he's like a 207 hitter right now. I checked the stats like 2 days ago, I think.
Hmm.
I mean, and the starting first baseman they have right now is hitting great. He's like 300, but at the age of 30, and with a not so consistent career, do you really want to bank on that as the Giants, Just
Hmm.
picked up Blake Snell, who you'll have for next year. You got to scrap this year to
Possibly.
be, yeah, possibly. You have to scrap this year because, I mean, Blake Snell's pitching like absolute dog. Jung Ho Lee is injured for the year. Their offense hasn't really played well. It's not the Giants I was expecting, to be honest, to be at this point in the season. I thought, they'd have a healthy team that's starting to compete. Obviously, not the case. They had a guy like Pete Alonso. You give some reinforcement to Snell, be like, hey, we're serious about winning. We got a guy like Pete Alonso to help you, like come back,
Mhm.
like we can do this, You got Jung Hoo Lee next year, who was hitting pretty decently to start his. Year in the MLB.
Mhm.
There's a lot of talent there. You got Matt Chapman still at third. And then you got what, Patrick Bailey, right?
Yeah. Um, I will say, I don't know if you know this, but Pete Alonso's a free agent after the year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in terms of like the timeline here, Snow's okay. First, Snow's he left yesterday's start with I think a groin issue. So he's gonna be out for a month, estimated at least. Like he's gonna go in the IL estimated
Yeah.
for a month or so. Um, I just don't know. I feel like I also have Pete Alonso as a trade a guy who could be traded, who I'd like to see traded. Um, the Giants just weren't really like top of mind just because I don't know what's gonna happen this like with this year. They're hovering around 500 and Chapman and Snell both like potentially could be gone by the end of the year. And I don't know, do you bank on this 1 year being like the year? Because Pete Alonso is a 1 year rental. And it's like I have them going to more of a team that's like they're gonna go for it this year, and if they don't, they can kind of go back and be like, okay, let's
Well,
take a step back.
I mean, you look at the amount of injuries that team has. There's no Jung Hoo Lee. There's no Jorge Soler. There's no Blake Snell. Matt Chapman's isn't playing well. You give that team the full roster, and then you add Pete Alonso to it. That team's gonna compete. There's
I
no
think,
way that team doesn't compete.
yeah, I mean they compete, but to what level? I
I
don't
mean,
know.
I see them going at least a wild card. There's no way. I mean, you
That's
have
true.
Blake and Logan Webb pitching at their full peak potential. I mean, or at least like 80%, okay?
Hmm.
Like that's shoving right there. And you could add another starter along with it, like a cheaper starter.
Hmm.
Um, you have that full lineup: Chapman, Soler, Patrick Bailey, Jung Hoo Lee, and then you add Pete Alonso to it, right? I
Yeah,
mean, that's a solid lineup. You know what I'm saying? And Jorge Soler.
yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a pretty good
Like that
lineup. I think.
that lineup is not bad on
Yeah.
paper, but it has to they haven't played as a full lineup yet.
Hmm.
Or I mean, well, obviously without Pete Alonso.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think it's gonna come down to well, what do the Giants think about this year? What are their like plans for this year? Because if they're gonna
Yeah,
go
it's
all in,
definitely a
it's a great
big year
move.
to decide. I mean,
Yeah.
they've reinforced Jung Hoo Lee for sure. They obviously want to win now.
Hmm.
I feel like for the Giants, it's always been about winning now, low key.
Hmm.
Like they always want to just win a World Series, just buy the best players all the time,
Yeah.
which is respectable. I respect
Hmm.
that. I respect the team that wants to win all the time. Like,
Yeah. Like the team I have Pete Alonso going to is the Twins. I think,
I guess someone else going to the Twins.
Carlos Santana, like he's a good first baseman, but I just don't think
Well,
he
he's
can.
38 now.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, I don't think he's your solution there. And I
yeah.
think, like I said, I think Alonso's gonna be a 1 year rental. If the Mets start to bottom out a little bit, I mean, I think it's worth it. Just go shop Pete Alonso a little bit, see what you can get for him. And I think the Twins are a team that you can definitely like go out there and go get. Because I mean, in terms of like their lineup, having a power out in the middle that replaces Carlos Santana can really help. You know, they have a lot of contact guys, I think, um, in like um And like I think they're just missing a little bit of power. That's what my main thing was. Their lineup, like Santana at first, Kyle Farmer, Willie
Yeah.
Castro, Royce Lewis is injured, Correa, you've Kirilloff, Buxton, Kepler out there in the outfield. I just think, adding a power righty bat really kind of like rounds up this lineup and opens up the upside for the year.
That's an interesting thought. I actually do kind of agree with that. I mean, okay, so I guess I'll just mention my last one. I have Josh Bell going to the Twins.
Hmm.
Like the switch hitter, I feel like adds a little more value to the Twins.
Yeah.
I mean, the switch hitting kind of helps them out a little, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Carlos Santana is also a switch hitter, kind of just replaces him, but in a younger way with a little more potential, obviously, because Carlos Santana is about 2 years away from retiring.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I think that's interesting.
I think we're
That
right. The
Twins
same
definitely need a
idea.
first baseman. Yeah, same idea for sure. They just need a first baseman.
Hmm.
So we'll see what happens for them. I mean, they need that though to make a push. In the
Yeah.
stage that Twins are right now, they're not making it past like a division series. So
Hmm. Um, and I have a couple more, and then I have a few guys at the end where I couldn't like find a team for them, so I didn't put them. But I have a little
yeah.
list, and we can kind of discuss that.
Mhm.
My next one is Carlos Tevez to the Tigers. Staying in the AL Central, I think every AL Central team has like one weakness where like if they were to fill it up, they can make a run toward the playoffs and maybe a few like to the championship series. I think the Tigers, I mean, I looked it up. The Tigers have one of like the a bottom 10 bullpen ERA. They're currently they have a 4.12 bullpen ERA. And I think if they have a closer at the back end, um, maybe it opens up like their potential for advancing their timeline. And Esteves, I don't think he's gonna cost that much. He's not like a really young closer like Mason Miller is. And the Angels aren't really like gonna be using him. At least, internally, you don't expect to be using like a high tier closer like that. It's just something I thought would be interesting to see. And then my last guy, going to the Mariners is Ryan McMahon.
Ryan McMahon.
Hmm.
That's an interesting one.
And the idea is, I think he just replaces Polanco. The Polanco experiment has been disappointing to say the least.
Well, can you really judge it so far? He's been injured. He's only played like a month of baseball.
Yeah, I don't want to. I'm not going to say the jury's not closed on that one yet. But I mean, I'm gonna say this. What's like? I don't know what his timeline is for his injury, but at what point do you like quit on the test? Obviously you want to give him enough time to kind of settle into himself. And obviously it's a new environment, so it's gonna take a little bit. But
Yeah.
I mean, if the Mariners are serious about winning, and I know like internally they are, McMahon really helps him out. And he has flexibility, positional flexibility. He can play in the corner, infield. He can play second base. I mean, like it balances their lineup a lot. What Polanco is supposed to be, McMahon can be.
In my opinion, okay, you look at it like this. Polanco's a year older than McMahon, right?
Hmm.
Polanco's like a lifetime 265 hitter, right?
Yeah,
And McMahon's like a lifetime 246 hitter.
yeah.
Polanco's also been an all-star.
Hmm.
Has McMahon been an all-star? Has he?
I mean, he's on the Rockies, so I would say like if he was an all-star,
And
he might have made
Polanco
all-star
also
team.
has playoff experience, in my
Yeah.
opinion. I mean, I don't think we quit on Polanco just yet. Let's see,
Okay.
let's reevaluate at the All-Star break, see where he's at.
Is he gonna be back
He's
by then?
he's he's
Do
on
we
a
know?
10-day IL, and that was 7 days ago.
Yeah,
I
I'll
mean,
take
they're
a look at
just
his
give
injury news. But so okay, Polanco, okay, says he's not expected to be sidelined long.
yeah. I mean, he's a switch hitter. He provides a lot of value. He's got decent
Hmm.
defense. I don't quit on him yet. I just don't.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, okay. The reason why I put McMahon to the Mariners is just because like we've seen like what happens when you give someone too much time. Um, especially like I mean, okay, as living in Seattle, like the name Colton Wong scars us a little bit. With all that much hope and like expectation we had on Colton Wong, for it to be so terrible, it's like now like it might just be that why like we're looking at Polanco struggling right now and be like, man, is this another situation where it's another Colton Wong situation? And I just think if the Mariners would be desperate to make a move, I think going after infield would be better than going after outfield. I just think like you said, they have so many guys in the outfield like possibilities. Um, and the pitching is fine, the bullpen's fine. The one like weakness is that like a second base spot. If you were to like, look at it as a whole. And McMahon really helps that because like he's a lefty bat, he brings power, defensively he's not bad, and he has flexibility, which is what the Mariners want. Like I know Scott Service is looking at that like that he could play third, he could play first, he could play second, just thinking like, man, what we could do with him. And I'm really interested to like see if the Mariners go after somebody and like who the position will be.
It definitely wouldn't hurt though. I don't think it's
Yeah.
quite, I don't know, necessary. I mean, Josh Rojas is playing well.
Yeah.
Um,
A
you
lot of these
know,
guys aren't necessary. I mean, I feel like
yeah.
in terms of like Robert, even like, like Garrett
But it would
Crochet.
definitely help. It only
Yeah, I
helps.
just think
Yeah.
it fills a hole that like
Yeah.
no matter how big the hole is, it fills a little bit and like
Yeah.
increases the upside. Some guys who like I have on the list of potential trade on the block that I just couldn't find a team. On the Angels, Taylor Ward and Luis Rengifo. I think Ward's a cheaper option for the outfield bat. Like I could see the Braves going after Ward.
Yeah.
Rengifo, another infield guy, but I just don't know what team goes after him, especially because it's like a one-off this year. He's not been like a career guy who's established.
I mean, they're not
Um,
necessarily young. Renifo's
yeah,
nearing 30 and Ward is 30. So I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
maybe
I just
you
think,
go towards like a team that's already solidified for more depth.
yeah, Ward, I think to the Braves is a very interesting option. I think
Yeah.
he's like a cheaper option to like the outfield like
Yeah.
depth.
Yeah.
Um, you mentioned Josh Bell, so I won't really go into him. Yeah, you actually mentioned a lot of the guys on the list. And then the last guy is the guy who kind of we both have thoughts on is Randy Rosarena. I mean, this is like it's gonna be a season long thing. What do the Rays do?
It's time to give him up. He has like the worst
Is it?
batting average in the league right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing though. It's like his
It's
trade value
god
is so
awful.
low that it's like at this point, like, are you trading for a bag of chips now?
Yeah, I mean, to
But
be
like,
honest, yeah.
is that worth
Like
letting him
he's
just?
hitting 162 this year.
I
Like
mean,
this is a bad year. Like the Rays could, at this point should just get what they can get for him. Yeah, at this point, like just rebuild your system. You know what I'm saying?
mm,
Teams are willing to still cough up decent prospects for him.
yeah,
He's obviously a provenly good player. Like he's had good seasons, obviously. He was an all-star last year and a monster year in the playoffs, you know?
hmm,
Yeah.
yeah,
But, like just get what you can for him at this point.
yeah, and
Give him up.
then
And he'll probably help out the team, honestly. And he'll probably figure it out once he leaves. So
yeah. And then just to kind of wrap up like our little trade episode, I was just like looking through teams that like could make a move. So like the way I did this was like I named a bunch of players who like I thought were on the block. And
yeah.
then I went through and like looked at teams who could use like some help. And then I kind of just like match made a little bit, put like guys to teams. But there's some teams where like I was looking, I'm like, what do they do? Like it really depends on how they like what happens over the next few weeks. A team like the Blue Jays, Vladdy Guerrero, Bo Bichette, both are guys who, are nearing free agency. And it's like, do they sell there? Do they buy in for this year? Like I was like, I don't know what to do with the Blue Jays there, you know? Um, Another team like that is Houston. Is Houston's
Hmm.
championship window closed or open? Like, I don't think Altuve is getting traded anytime soon, but
Yeah.
do they buy in or do they just kind of let it fade out a little bit? That's another team that I thought. And then the NL, there's the whole NL Central. And like for my list, I have no NL Central players, and then I have no NL Central teams buying. It's just because it's so like dependent on what happens. You
Yeah.
know,
I
Cardinals
mean,
are
they're
one
all
game
kind of like
under.
mulling around, like they're all kind of just competing. Like
Yeah,
you kind of just wait and see how it plays out.
Cardinals are one game under Cubs are 2 games under.
Okay.
Pirates are 5 games under. Reds are 7 games under. And it's like any one of these teams make a run, you can see them buying. But you see like if one of the teams like does if the team's kind of like go on a losing streak, I can see them selling. Cardinals, like, they could sell Goldschmidt, like you said.
Mhm.
Cubs, they could sell I don't know what they could sell, but like I see them maybe not buying,
Yeah.
right? And then it's kind of the same for the NL West. The Padres and the Giants, especially, and even throwing the Diamondbacks, it's like it really depends on like what they do. The Diamondbacks, I don't know. I don't see them make any moves, but the Padres and the Giants, I don't know. It's like they could buy, like you said, on Pete Alonso. They could buy in on a guy like Josh
Yeah.
Bell, a guy like, Luis Robert if they're serious on winning. And then for the Padres, some pitching. They could go out and get Luzardo, Alex Wood, like you mentioned, Crochet,
Mm.
even like some bullpen help. But it's like if they're gonna like compete, like they're gonna have to show something before they make a move. Is there any other teams that, like off the top of your head where you think like they might make a move?
The Mariners are definitely gonna make a move for sure.
Mhm.
Um,
Do you see the top teams making a move, like the Phillies, the Yankees, the
I think the
Orioles,
Phillies look for
Dodgers?
I think the Phillies look for an option, and I think the Dodgers look for some more pitching options.
Yeah, I think
The
pitching for the Dodgers might be a
Yeah, I
move.
think I think the Yankees definitely are just gonna stay where they are for
I
sure.
think the Yankees are kind of like I think if they do anything, they get bullpen help just because
Uh,
like they got like they have Jason Dominguez like for the
yeah,
outfield. They have Garrett Cole coming back.
yeah,
But I think you can never have too much bullpen arms.
yeah.
Um,
That's definitely the truth. You can never have too much bullpen arms.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
I mean, you just never know how they'll play. So,
Yeah. Um, that's the episode. You can catch us on YouTube, and we're also on Spotify. That's something new that happened over last week. And yeah, we'll be back next week. See ya.